Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Midday Live. It's coming to you live from our news hub here at Adesawe Kanda. My name is Efua Tieku. Now, top of the bulletin this afternoon. Government set to announce roadmap on lifting ban on small-scale mining after more than a year. Strike by nurses and doctors at Tamale Teaching Hospital begins to bite hard. On the international front, grief in Italy for 39 victims of collapsed motorway bridge in Genoa has been mixed with anger. These and more coming up in the next 1 hour. And do remember, we are live on DSTV channel 279. Now to our very first story, all emergency and OPD services at the Tamale Teaching Hospital have been suspended following skirmishes there. The hospital was besieged by irate youth who threw out the CEO and locked up his office. The doctors say they will not back down on their demand.
The actions that have been taken by these various groups shows you the gravity of the situation at the ground. Putting up, 7 to 10 security personnel in front of the office of the chief executive officer does not assure anyone of anything. If people could come to the chief executive's office and then do this, what about me sitting in my consulting room or in the theater? Or some other nurse or someone else who may have an altercation with a patient? Through no fault of theirs. This is just unbecoming. It's people in town, some people in the hospital thinking that because of certain rights they perceive they have, that they can go out and then sack whoever they wish. And they've made it a tribalistic issue, and we are not interested in that. We are interested in our safety, we are interested in our security, we are interested in the ability to be able to work with our peace of mind, with all our colleagues, and we're the same for ourselves and for our patients. That is what we want. If these perpetrators or the perpetrators of these actions cannot be arrested in 24 hours, I beg to ask, if it had been a police officer that had been manhandled in this situation, do you think by now, 24 hours down the line, the people would not have been found? And the assurances are mere words, they are rhetoric, it's just talk. We want to see action on the ground. Putting police officers in front of the CEO's offices for his safety. It is not for the safety of the workers of TTA. The doctors there are running away for fear and panic and are not able to come to work. Who is going to look after these patients? This is the situation where at any time you are looking over your shoulder. Because these people do not wear bands or identify themselves with certain clothing or things like that, security services where you can identify them. They could be anyone standing next to you, and you do not know who the person is because they tend to just walk in, like I see their relatives, and then they walk in looking as though they are looking for the chief executive. And it's when they get to the final destination that their true colors are revealed. We are not safe.
No, so we do understand that the strike action by both nurses and doctors is biting hard as they are no longer attending to OPD and emergency cases. Now, Zubeida Ismail is our correspondent there and has joined us on the phone line. Good afternoon to you, Zubeida. What is the situation at the hospital currently?
If I didn't hear you.
I'm asking about the situation at the hospital currently.
I can tell you that patients that had arrived for medical services have begun leaving the premises. Between the hours of 9 a.m. to 11, the place was heavily congested. You could find patients filling up the OPD. But then after waiting for hours, they advise themselves because the doctors, any doctor they approach or any nurse they approach to talk to would tell them point blank that they are not working and they are not attending to anybody. And so by 11:30, most of these patients have left the hospital. And then when I spoke with most of them, what they told me was that they were going to seek these services at different hospitals, talking about the Seventh-day Adventist Hospital, which is very close to the Tamale Teaching Hospital, and the Tamale Central and West Hospital. So these patients have all gone to these three.
Zubaida, are these cases referral cases, as in are the doctors in the Tamale Teaching Hospital referring them to these hospitals, or they are just going there on their own?
Nobody is referring them to any hospital. Just after they are told that they are not going to be attended to, these people decide to go. So it is not like any person is holding a referral letter or something. Nobody is holding a referral letter. They have decided to go. And interestingly, when I checked with the other hospitals, I also noticed that, doctors that spoke to me, but they spoke off camera, they said they are also ready to join in that strike, because if they don't solidarize with their colleagues at TTH, the same thing can be done to them. And so they are willing, and they are also just waiting for any little thing, and they will join in the same strike with their colleagues at TTH.
Right. We also understand there was an emergency meeting to discuss the issue. How did that meeting go?
The meeting, I wouldn't say it was successful, because at the end, it was RESTEC's intention to get these, the unions to get back to work. But that's failed, because the unions are insisting that, and so they see a police post at the hospital and also hear or see that these members of the youth group have been arrested. They are not working. Now, the minister assured them that immediately he was going to get a police post at the hospital, but then they also demanded that they were not just going to take it verbally. Even when the police post is established, they are expecting a document to attest to the fact that the IGP is aware that the police post has been established there, and then the boys have been arrested. And so these two major demands are met. They are not coming to work.
Thank you very much. Zubaida Ismail is our Northern Regional correspondent. So as you know, the doctors and nurses and midwives at the Tamale Teaching Hospital have laid down their tools to protest the attack on the hospital's Chief Executive Officer, Dr. David Koubila, by youth groups affiliated to the governing New Patriotic Party. Now, the leadership has vowed not to rescind their decision until the perpetrators are brought to book. We find out what Ghanaians are saying about this development.
Doctors and nurses at the Tamale Teaching Hospital have withdrawn their services until further notice. They are citing security concerns after thugs ejected their CEO from his office on Monday. Are they justified? We find out today. On what do you think?
You need security to work. I mean, the way they went to the hospital to sack the CEO is not the best. If so-called vigilantes can just walk into a hospital, which must be a security zone, to commit that crime, and as we speak, they have not been arrested. It's dangerous. It means anybody at work, we are a law of the jungle. They have every right to protect themselves.
I don't think they should use what the tax did, because their positions at the various at the Tamale Teaching Hospital is not at risk. They were not the targets of the vigilante. Now, their action is now going against the patients who will be using their facility. And I don't think that's the best thing to do. I think they should use the appropriate courtesy to make sure that the perpetrators of that crime are brought to book. I think that's the best thing to do, but not by withdrawing their services.
I agree with them. If they continue to work there, their lives is in danger. All of them should sit back for the situation to be solved before they go back to work. Somebody can stand somewhere or get somebody in a situation whereby the person can't do anything again by hurting the person or killing. Even somebody can even through this can pass away.
If I appointed you into office, you're the only one who can take me out. No one else can come in and say that he's taking me out. I feel that the vigilante group is not their right, yet I feel they've been given some form of authority, because if not, I don't feel you just stand up without any form of backing and then go and do something. Definitely, you should have a form of backing.
There are measures in place for people to be sacked. It's no. I can't come to your office and say we are sacking you when you go. The nurses and doctors there, they can sack you today without you knowing. No guarantee that you have your job tomorrow. Anybody can come to your office and just sack anybody like that. It's not right.
There be na yare me kasa manya 81. Enti me yare am de koyin. Say doctor na ja ejumane ya. Me yare am de koyin. And the doctors say one ja ejumane.
I think they have to consider that like with the patients, because some of them might be in a critical condition and they're going on strike. I think it wouldn't help.
Now let's turn our attention to education, and 5 principal officers of the University of Education, Winneba, have been dismissed by the Governing Council. One other official had her appointment terminated.
The 5 are the Vice-Chancellor, who is serving a suspension, Professor Mauto Avoke, Finance Officer, Dr. Theophilus Senior Akoli, Daniel Tete, Mary Jime, and Frank Owusu Boateng. They were interdicted in July last year by the university's Governing Council to allow for investigations after it emerged that some vital documents at some offices at the center of an ongoing investigation had gone missing. Subsequently, in January, lawyers of the 5 wrote to the University Council demanding their immediate reinstatement. A Winneba High Court in 2017 ordered Professor Mauto Avoke to step aside until a case brought against him and the university's Governing Council is determined. The order was made in a case brought before the court by one Kofi Kwaira, who insisted that the Vice-Chancellor and the Finance Officer were operating under the institution's defunct Governing Council. The plaintiff noted that the university's council's mandate had expired in November 2013. But the Education Ministry failed to constitute a new Governing Council for the university and rather allowed the defunct Governing Council, which had no mandate, to continue the functions of a properly constituted Governing Council as if it had been properly constituted. However, before the substantive claims were looked into, the university, through its lawyers, applied to the courts to dismiss the suit on the 3 counts, but the application was dismissed. The High Court subsequently found Professor Avoke and the school's finance officer, Dr. Theophilus Senior Akoli, guilty of procurement and other financial irregularities. The court subsequently ordered the retrieval of all monies paid to the contractors of the North Campus roads and a forensic audit of the project.
You're watching Midday Live on TV3. Let's now go to the phone lines and speak with the president of UTAG, Dr. Eric Opoku. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Opoku.
Yeah, good afternoon.
So what do you make of the dismissal of these officers from the University of Education?
Yeah, thank you. Yesterday we received the news of the dismissal with shock because the Vice-Chancellor, whose case we're talking about, is a fine, a gentleman, academic, and as an association, we followed this case for a very long time, and that, we have been in touch with major stakeholders like the Vice-Chancellor's Ghana, Ministry of Education, and the council chairs of the various public universities. We try to have a dialogue to bring an amicable solution to this case.
If you say amicable solution, what exactly do you mean?
Well, just as you've outlined, you realize that a lot of things have happened, and that we wanted to make sure that this case was settled peacefully outside the court. But the whole case, there have been several suits in the various courts in our country, from the Supreme Court, Appeals Court, High Court, And as we talk now, there are still some cases pending before the appeals court. And as a result of that, UTAC got to a position and we felt we were handicapped because once cases were pending before competent courts of jurisdiction, then we needed to be careful as our own position and all of that. And now there is a council, as you rightly indicated, which has been set up in the university, and that council, set up a committee to investigate the issue. So we're just waiting to find out what was going to come out of it. And we heard this unfortunate news yesterday. And as a union, what we want to do is to formally write to the Governing Council of the University of Education to find out what brought about this final decision. That we apprise ourselves of the fact, then we can take a decision going forward.
So you believe that they were wrongfully dismissed?
I do not know, because so far as we are aware, the council had set up a committee to investigate beyond the cases that have been. And we were aware that, the deposed vice chancellor were supposed to appear before a disciplinary committee, and that we do not know how these conclusions about, and therefore we are going to write formally to the council so that we will know certainly what has happened. But what I would like to say is that Professor Mauto Avoke, as a member of the union, and we would want to make sure that his rights and privileges are protected as required by being members of the union. It's a very delicate issue, and therefore we want to move forward carefully. But first of all, we want
Dr.
to understand what happened.
You've made that point clear. But let me quiz you on a slightly different issue here about the UTAC's issue of the book and research allowance. We do have information that some of you have started receiving the allowances. Is it true?
No individual has received any money in his account. What I know formally is that some campuses have received their checks and that the checks are being processed. Some campuses have still not received their checks, especially those who happen to be in the third batch. So campuses within the first and second batches have received their checks, but no payment has been made. And therefore, we are waiting to make sure that these checks are cleared and that our members duly receive what they have to receive in their account. Then once we are sure of that, then we can formally come out and state our position. So the letter that we wrote to National Labour Commission still stands. The deadline was 24th, so we want to make sure that all campuses receive their checks and that the checks which have already been received before the end of last week, they are duly cleared and the monies are paid to our members.
Thank you very much,
until then,
Doctor.
Everything stands.
Thank you very much, Dr. Eric Opoku-Mensah, for that. Now, let's still stay with education, as chairman of the Ghana Education Service Council, Michael Nsua, has refuted claims licensing of teachers has been suspended. Speaking on 3FM on Wednesday morning with host Winston Amwa, Mr. Nsua said a crucial meeting on Friday between the teacher unions and government would go into the merit and demerit of the matter.
On Friday, there's a meeting. Oh, okay. So if anybody who made that announcement, you see, currently something letters and circulars are going on in the social media. One was even saying those who hold basic education should be redeployed to the basic primary schools.
Yes, is that true?
That is not true. That's a fake letter. Another, I'm happy you brought this. The NTC also has actually, we've got one on social media on this track and so on and so forth. And they are all fake because the signature does not belong to Dr. Evelyn Owusu, who is the Executive Secretary of the NTC. So I don't know what is going on now. As we speak now in Ghana, teachers are not professional, are not recognized as professionals because they don't have anything to guide them. Rather, you should have a license before I can employ you.
This is Midday Live on TV3. When we return, we have business. Don't go away. You're welcome back. The Africa Center for Integrity and Development is calling on the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, to sack the board chairman of BOST, Dr. Kwame Echampong-Chey, for his involvement in the collapse of Sovereign Bank as its board chair. Now, according to the think tank, Dr. Kwame Echampong-Chey is complicit in the alleged fraud perpetuated by Sovereign Bank in the acquisition of their license to operate as a universal bank.
Dr. Kwame Echampong-Chey is not the only person involved in this scandal. There are other people. But what we are calling for is Dr. Echampong-Chey holds a public office. He's the current board chairman of BOST, and he's directly involved of the Sovereign Bank collapse. So we are calling on the president to sack him, or he himself should resign. At the time of the establishment of the Sovereign Bank, he was the board chairman. At the time they went and took the license in false pretense, he was the board chairman. Clearly, he's complicit, and he should be shown the exit. He resigned from Sovereign Bank in March 2018, but that does not exonerate him from this scandal. If you still last to 20 years and they caught you today, you are a criminal. So it's clear. So we are calling on the president, for the sake of his government and Ghana, this man should go.
Government has confirmed plans to support indigenous banks raise the minimum capital requirement of 400 million cedis by December 2018. According to Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, such support will be limited to indigenous banks that are solvent, well-governed and managed in full compliance with the Bank of Ghana regulatory requirements.
We know we are going to do that, and so we are working out the mechanisms for that. But yeah, clearly it is. We will have to strengthen the local banks. I'm expecting that they themselves will be getting together for mergers and consolidations, and then we'll see how best we can support to make sure we have strong representation.
Will it be in the form of a bond? Are we going to issue a bond?
You know, instruments are structured to suit, because once you add up their capitalization, you know what type of instrument to give. So I'm not sure, but we'll solve it, which is the most important thing.
And it's a year after UT and Capital banks were liquidated, and former employees of the defunct Capital Bank are asking the Bank of Ghana to take full responsibility for the bank's failures. They blame the regulator for current turmoil in the financial sector.
The financial sector has been in a considerable state of turmoil for close to 2 years. UT and Capital banks had to be taken over through a purchase and assumption transaction with Ghana Commercial Bank to prevent spillovers to the rest of the banks and the economy as a whole. On August 1, the Bank of Ghana declared 5 banks, namely Unibank, Sovereign, Construction, Beige and Royal, insolvent and revoked their licenses, then merged them into what has been christened the Consolidated Bank Ghana Limited. Former staff of Capital Bank have blamed the central bank for the crisis in the sector. Former digital banking manager at Capital Bank, Raymond Adai-Dankwa, said the regulator failed to appoint a supervisor to ensure prudent management of bailout funds. He said uneven supervision and inadequate enforcement played a significant role in escalating the woes of distressed banks.
When you give a liquidity support to a financial institution, you are supposed to appoint an advisor for them. Okay. In this case, it was not done. The liquidity supply was given to Capital Bank. We're in 3 trenches. So you gave the first one, the person couldn't account, and you went ahead and gave a second one, and then a third one. If you've given taxpayers money to somebody to go and work and you are not supervising them, then
Former branch control supervisor of Capital Bank, Philip Yawson, currently unemployed, said the Bank of Ghana needs to set up a witness protection plan to make it easy for employees to report irregular movement of funds within the system.
In the sector, we need something like a whistleblower. If I see a transaction and this transaction is suspicious, we know we have the FIC sentence there, but how am I protected if you are my boss? You are the MD of the bank, and I see a suspicious transaction as an officer down there, and I come and tell you, and the transaction is your own or your related party. How would I be treated? The person who reports will be properly protected. You understand? It will give more confidence to those down there.
They entreated staff of banks to form unions that will work in their best interest.
Now, still on banking issues, and pressure group Occupy Ghana has called on the government to probe the collapse of 7 banks and punish persons found to have breached prudential or banking regulations. There's more in the following report.
Occupy Ghana notes in the press release that details emerging from preliminary investigations into the rot in the banking sector suggest that shareholders appear to help themselves to depositors' funds as if it was their personal piggy banks. Directors and auditors apparently breach their fiduciary duties with recklessness. Directors also failed to exercise utmost good health, shamelessly engaged in ultra-vires transactions and other deals with conflict of interest and conflict of duty implications. The group says it is confident firm actions will be taken to protect the banking sector, which it describes as a critical sector of Ghana's economy. The banking sector shook in August 2017 following news that Capital Bank and UT Bank's liabilities overwhelmed their assets, and the Bank of Ghana assumed the responsibility of the assets and revoked their licenses. Details emerging recently from a report sanctioned by the Bank of Ghana reveals that the 2 indigenous banks expended huge funds given to them as bailout to save them from collapse.
I've been joined on the phone line by a member of Occupy Ghana, Kweku Segbefia. Good afternoon to you, Kweku. Kweku, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes. Hi.
Thank you for joining us on Midday Live. Now, the Bank of Ghana has come up with some new regulations. What do you make of it? Are you satisfied with it?
Well, I don't know what the new regulations are currently, but at the time we issued out a statement, we were aware that everybody that had contributed to the collapse of the various banks was literally walking scot-free. And we are calling for deep investigations into all of them and their, prosecution to the full extent of the law, so that all the people, whether board directors, whether top CEOs and management who have contributed to the loss of these monies and to the collapse of these banks, will be jailed and their assets disposed of so that we could receive some of our money.
So are you worried then that as at now we haven't really heard anything from the Bank of Ghana concerning those people from within the bank who are implicated in this mess?
It's pretty obvious which department within the Bank of Ghana is culpable and liable for these kinds of things. There's a banking and supervisory division under the Bank of Ghana that is supposed to license and regulate and ensure compliance of all actors within the banking industry. Whatever it is that they were doing that caused the fall of these banks, they need to also be held to account. One other thing, remember, is that in one of the reports, we are aware that some 22 million cedis after the 400 million Ghana cedi bailout was given to one of the banks was sent out as, thank you cash, as bribery and corruption cash to be shared to the people within that segment. So clearly they are culpable and they are liable and they all need to be brought to book. So when you put it together, you realize that yes, internally within the Bank of Ghana's own system and externally, which is directors and board members and shareholders of these banks have all contributed to the collapse of the bank and they shouldn't be allowed to go scot-free.
No, so in your opinion, what measures do you think that the Bank of Ghana should put in place currently?
Well, first off, they are doing the right thing by holding, first they consolidated some of the banks, and then they terminated the licenses of some of them and bringing them all to book. And we appreciate that, that's exactly the way to go. We are also aware that there are other measures coming in place to ensure full compliance for the rest of the banks that are left. But going beyond that, we also need to ensure that people within this country who team up with the political elements within this country to rid this country of our money be brought to book. So we can easily track it. We know where all the monies went to. Let's begin to recover every single loot in this whole scandal. And then when we have done so and we've recovered some of our money, let's hold them in before the court and have them prosecuted to the full extent of the law. So that in future, nobody ever rises up to believe that Ghanaians are so gullible as to allow our monies to go down this way. And even when we have caught up with them and we are dealing with them, then they can still enjoy the assets and the funds that they would have enjoyed from creating these messes to begin with. That is what we need to do to ensure that there's sanity within the banking sector.
Kweku Segbefia, thank you very much. You've been speaking with Kweku Segbefia of Occupy Ghana. Now let's look at some issues involving mining or illegal mining. Now, the Interministerial Committee set up to supervise the ban on small-scale mining will on August 16 present the Multilateral Mining Integrated Project to the President. Based on the roadmap, the President will announce the dates for the ban to be lifted. A chartered environmentalist at the Institute of Environmental Assessment, Dr. Eric Chum, has stated that the need for capacity building for the legal small-scale miners.
I believe it's about time they relook into the issue of the mining licenses and get the right qualified individuals to do their own business.
Dr. Eric Chum indicated government should not lose sight of capacity building for the legal small-scale miners.
We need to build the capacity of our mining companies, those with licenses, on reclamation, how to put back the land that are destroyed, how to restore them, and have what we call ecosystem services restored in those areas. This is very important going forward.
Acting National Project Coordinator of the Multilateral Mining Integrated Project, MMIP, Isaac Bonso Kakari, explained the rationale behind the project.
And the MMIP basically is a document which comes with this working document called the PAID, the Project Appraisal Implementation Document, which is just generally to stop illegal mining and ensure that the whole small-scale mining sector is sanitized. And it's a project management approach, which means that we're going to make sure that there are clear timelines and milestones and targets going through the procurement process so that everything is transparently done, and involving capacity building of these miners, involving training, of course, and then also making sure that we bring in technology, appropriate technology, to be able to let them do sustainable mining moving.
Let's now take a quick break on Midday Live. We'll be back with more on sports. Now, the father of the late dance hall diva Ebony Reigns, Nana Poku-Kwarteng, says perceptions that he is greedy and bent on amassing wealth from his daughter's demise are unfounded. The worried father again opened up on how a chunk of proceeds from Ebony's tributes ended up being shared among musicians, DJs, MCs, and media men. He vowed to see to it that monies due her late daughter don't end up in wrong hands.
It's not about money, but the fact that it isn't about money, that's also, it can't be the case that I should let what is due Ebony just go down the goddamn rain. No way. It wouldn't be the case. You know what? Bullet said there was this 50,000 he was going to use to do that, per the concert revenue. But the concert I was there when they presented like it is, according to the calculations, and now I have them here. He wrote it in his own handwriting. This is the calculation Bullet did and presented for the content. This is from 1 to 3. I have them here. I want to put it out here for us to do the calculation so that you and I will understand that indeed the greedy bastard being me might not even be the case. Media Sole, I don't know what that is. Maybe you know better. That is 4,000, I mean. He says the artist, so I could see Adam, the artist, took 3,000. Keche took 3,000. Raskuku took 1,500. Captain Planet took 2,000. Codet took 1,000. R2B 3,000. Raquel or whatever 1,000. Carl Songs 1,000. And the MCs DKB took 1,000. OG Ebonis I don't know this guy the closest yes he took 5,000. 500. 500. Sorry about that. DJs Shawarma Ebonis DJ took 500. Ebonis DJ Shawarma took 500. So the amount that was left, according to him, was 4,660.068. And the 40% that is due the Queen. According to the calculation here, I was supposed to receive 1,864.272. But it was so nice to me. They added 200 Ghana to it. A gesture. Making 2,000, of which I so much appreciate.
And that'll be it for Midday Live. But before we go, let's look at the top stories once more. Government set to announce roadmap on lifting ban on small-scale mining after more than a year. Strike nurses and doctors at Tamale Teaching Hospital begins to bite hard. And grief in Italy for 39 victims of collapsed motorway bridge in Genoa has been mixed with anger. And that's all for Midday Live. Thank you so much for staying with us. My name is Efua Tieku. Have a lovely afternoon.